Hello, I'm back. And once again, ladles and jelly spoons, it's more time. So, I had this video in the works for a while now. It was supposed to come out shortly after the movie's release, but I didn't work on it enough, and after nothing too big about it happened, I ended up scrapping it. But now, since the movie of all time Morbius has finally come out on Netflix, I'm gonna be posting my review. I'm gonna be running through the plot of the movie and making corny little jokes about my nitpicks and pointing them out and talking about them seriously a couple of times. I feel like the casting choice of Morbius was so far off. Jared Leto only really looked the part, so Sony just went, well, you look like him, you're in, bud. I mean, Jared Leto was so far off the characteristics of Morbius. That and Jared Leto isn't even a great actor in the first place, so he should just avoid acting auditions as a whole. Milo was just a rehash of a pre-existing character from the comics called Loxus Crown, who has the same gimmick as Milo. In fact, Matt Smith was originally announced to be playing Loxus Crown, but they later changed it to an original character, Milo. But I have to say, I do find Milo pretty scary. Though I will say, I did find his vampiric design about as goofy as my hairline. I mean, kudos to Matt Smith for playing him so terrifying. Other than that. And then there's Simon Stroud, who I honestly thought wasn't that bad of a character, and was pretty interesting. If he wasn't cut so much and had more time to shine, I think he'd play a very interesting role in the movie. And then we have these three. I don't even want to get into them, they're so boring. These three are so boring that they're just their job descriptions and nothing else. We have Martine Bancroft, the love interest, Al Rodriguez, the comic relief, and Emil Nicholas, the mentor. And same situation as Simon Stroud. I think Emil Nicholas could have been an interesting role in the movie if he had more time to shine, if he weren't cut so much, if he were more than his job description and had more of a connection to Milo and Morbius. And let's not forget about the Vulture who was crammed in last minute just to make connections to the MCU. Alright, I ran through all the characters. Here's where we get nitpicky. So we start the movie in Costa Rica when Morbius catches a bunch of vampire bats to do experiments on. I think. They just throw random scenes at us at random times and hope we get the context of what is going on in the scene. But I had to watch the movie about 5 times before I understood what was happening. Then we cut 25 years earlier to when Morbius was a wee little lad. Lying in a hospital bed, a new kid comes in next to Morbius, and he just names him Milo on the spot. I mean, just imagine that. Anyway, Milo dies for a second, and then Morbius just comes in and fixes his machine with a ballpoint pen. So then Nicholas ships him off to New York City, where he can fix his disease somehow. And then we cut again to the present day, when Morbius is awarded with a Nobel Prize for creating artificial blood. I wish I knew what was going on here. Nobel Prize? Artificial blood? Present day? What is happening? Who, what, when, where, why, how? As stated before, they just cut to random scenes and hope we get the context of what's going on, but it's even worse because it feels like they're skipping over scenes that should be able to provide context for what's happening in that scene. Then we cut to the next scene and skip over that Nobel Prize scene because that's not relevant. And then we find out that he turned down his Nobel Prize award. And in this scene, we cut to the start of a subplot where Morbius is trying to cure a little girl who has the same disease as him. I think. I don't know, they don't explain it. So then he gets pulled out of the lab by Miss Love Interest and nothing else, and she exposes him for his weird bat DNA splicing experiment. Oh, also that little girl we visited before, yeah, she's put into a coma and we never return to that storyline. Then because of funding from Milo, remember him, they do some illegal experiments on international waters and he finally morbs! Okay, I will admit, Other than a few hiccups here and there, I do find this movie even slightly visually appealing. A few hiccups I will mention. They didn't use any blood effects to keep that PG-13 rating, only blood sound effects. That mist effect is used anytime Morbius does literally anything, and the overuse of the slow-mo. After a pretty cool attack scene that could have given this movie an R rating with the right effects, Morbius wakes up back as a human and sees what he's done. He erases the CCTV footage, makes a mayday call, and then jumps overboard to make sure he isn't found. Oh, also Miss Morbian's girlfriend, she's knocked unconscious because she's irrelevant. Morbius makes it back to New York City, and in an expository TLDR scene, he discovers his superpowers and mentions the bats treat him like a brother because he has a bit of their DNA. Keep that in mind. And also, to subside his vampirism, Morbius decides to not drink blood, or the red, as it's called in the movie, and instead decides to drink that artificial blood he made. So then here's where Simon Stroud and Mr. Not Really That Funny come in. So then they investigate the ship and interview Bancroft about what she remembers on the ship, and then they just kind of figure out that Morbius is the one behind all this. So then Milo comes in to check on Morbius, and once he finds out that Morbius is cured, they get into a bit of a scuffle because Morbius has a meanie pants and won't let him have a taste of the serum that turned Morbius into the living vampire. But then Milo leaves and takes the serum anyway, and then he kills a nurse. Because we gotta show that he's evil. So the next day, Morbius discovers the nurse and finds out that he's been blamed for it since Stroud is the only one that he knows is doing it. Okay, makes sense. So then Morbius gets arrested after a fight scene that started on a ground floor and that ended up all the way on a roof in a matter of seconds. So then Morbius puts on the classic orange jumpers and is freed by Milo after a few hours, by Milo flexing his wealth apparently, because that'll get anyone out of prison. Then when Morbius finds out that Milo took the cure and killed the nurse, Morbius breaks out and Milo and Morbius have their first fight. And like the last one, it got insane. It started in an alleyway and ended up in a subway station in a matter of seconds. Because that makes sense! So after Morbius breaks out, he tracks down Bancroft, because that's not creepy at all, and he tells her everything that Milo has done. So then they somehow turn a counterfeit money-making lab into a biochemistry center. And then he starts creating a serum that will kill the vampire that takes it. Also, he promises that after he kills Milo, he's gonna take the serum himself, because it's his responsibility. He started it, so he's gonna end it. Keep that in mind. So then Stroud realizes that Morbius isn't the one that killed the nurse along with a few other people, and instead, he finds out about Milo through CCTV footage. And then he just leaves for the rest of the movie. He's no longer relevant, I guess. Then the news gets a hold of Milo's existence, and Nicholas finds out. Then Nicholas goes to confront Milo about it, but Milo kills him, and then Morbius finds Nicholas dead. Then Bancroft is killed by Milo, and Morbius discovers Bancroft. Wait, wasn't that literally just the same thing?
No it wasn't, because it's a different character.
Oh yeah, good point, that makes sense. And then he finally drinks the red! Then we have the final fight between Milo and Morbius. And like the rest, it started somewhere and ended up somewhere completely different. This time, it started on a rooftop and ended in a sewer. Then Morbius just full on just kamehamehas a bunch of bats towards Milo. But here's the thing. Keep in mind that when Morbius took the serum, he said the bats were treating him like a brother. But Milo took the same serum, so why are they attacking him if he took the same thing? Shouldn't he have the same connection with the bats? Nobody cares, that was a previous scene. And remember how Morbius said he would take the serum after killing Milo? Screw that plan, we got sequels to make! So what do I think? I think it's ridiculously bad. It's full of plot holes and missing scenes, as well as false advertising. It has stories that go nowhere, terrible acting from the lead role, and half the characters feel cut and dry. Not to mention, it's the same format as the past due Sony Spider-Man villain movies, so the entire movie feels very cut and dry itself. So, That's it for my review of Morbius. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe and comment. And if you didn't, well then just let me know. Also, screw you. Let me know what you thought of the movie. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, let me know. Follow me on Twitter at RedKing31YT. And I will see you next time. Goodbye, fellow YouTubers of YouTubing.